Welcome to another episode of Beauty and the Priest. I'm Fiona.
And I'm Jim. And today's topic, what we thought would be worthwhile discussing, is empty nesters. When the kids have grown up, or they're about to leave, how do you best help them launch well? Yeah. What do you do if they don't launch well? What do you do if they don't launch? All of that and more is what I'm hoping we might cover in the next 3 or 4 minutes.
And what do you do if they do launch? And what do you do? Like we were just saying before we hit record. And what are you? Who are you when they leave? Like, what is the dynamic of your relationship if you have one? Like, if parents are still together or partners. So your situation now, you're finding yourself where you're leaving the children. Just pausing on that, I used to say to my kids when they were little, just as a joke, because I didn't mean it, if you haven't moved out by the time you're 25, then I'll move and you can just stay behind. But I never ever meant it. And then when they did, it was like, oh. So let's just go into your situation at the moment, which is kind of a...
Sure. So I've got 4 children. 2 of them are older. One's married with 2 kids. One's living elsewhere, and I've got 2 who stay with us still currently. And one of them said to me this morning that he's fairly sure that he might be moving out soon, or we're about to move. So he's looking to effectively stay in the area, closer to his job and friends and such. So it obviously got me thinking. I thought that would be a great topic for us to talk about, because I know, of course, you've got 2 who have left as well. And I know there's been movies made about this. There's been all sorts of things discussed about being an empty nester, but also launching the kids in the best possible way.
Yeah, so I think that there's 2 separate parts to that. There's one, how do you manage as parents? And one, how do you prepare them, I guess. Well, by this stage, you should have already prepared them, I guess. So it's like trusting in the fact that you have prepared them, you have raised them well, and they are going to be okay. But I think my biggest thing that I struggled with, and I think that this, please, in the comments, let me know if this was different for you, but just being able to trust that knowledge that I did prepare my kids well, because as a bit of a control freak and an overprotector, I was hit with the realization that I can no longer keep you safe and protect you and know where you are. And so often I was messaging, even when they would be going out and they didn't live here anymore, did you get home okay? Yes. Did you get there okay? And it's like, oh, at what point should you stop doing that? But I had to, and, as a Christian, I found comfort in saying, they're yours now, God, because that you only gave them to me to lend and take care of until they were adults. I was just in charge of their safety, but they're yours really, effectively. So you're in charge of their safety and outcomes now. And that gave me a lot of comfort, but it wasn't just, I trust God. No, it was quite a process to really hand that faith over.
Yeah. Well, with mine, the first of my children to move out moved into a dorm. She moved into for uni, so that was difficult, but it was still relatively easy, all things considered. It seems like part of the natural process is that they go through school and they go through high school or college, whatever, and then they go into university. So if it's an on-campus and it's too far to commute or whatever, it seems kind of natural for them to go off and do that. So that was relatively easy. My oldest daughter, when they got married, they obviously went off and lived together now and property. So that was relatively easy. But in this scenario, in us moving effectively to a totally different state, and having a child that wants to a child who's going to be 21 shortly, who's going to stay here, is a different sort of challenge. I think it doesn't feel natural. In some ways, it feels a bit like I'm abandoning.
I was just going to ask that. I was going to say to you, do you feel a little bit like you're abandoning him?
Yeah.
But I guess that would be a bit of a challenge. You've got to remind yourself that you were going to take him and he's chosen to stay. And you can imagine, like, when they get to that age, they're really just finding themselves, and they've established their friendships, and they're really finding themselves as an adult. So it might even be less disruptive and better for development to stay with the comfort zone for now, and maybe he'll join you later after he's been through this transition phase that doesn't need to be disrupted by a big change. Do you reckon?
Yeah. I think one of the things I spoke to him about this morning was I reflected on my own situation, and I've heard people say you can't have regrets. I disagree. I think you do have regrets. If there was no such a thing, then they wouldn't have a word for it. One of my regrets was not moving out. So when I got married, I moved out then. And so I didn't feel like I had a time to really just be myself. It was a different era. So I moved in and we grew together as a couple, and that's the way it worked. And that seemed to be that was the common thing back then.
Yeah.
But I did kind of regret not moving out, not sort of doing my own thing.
Finding your own self.
Yeah, having my own responsibilities and all those different things myself.
That is a really great point, because, and most people do. And I found that when my daughter, who got married a couple of years ago, she was literally going to be going straight from our house to getting married, because they'd been together for a really long time and they chose not to move in together beforehand. And I said to her, all right, that's really great, but you need to at least spend 12 months before you get married living with a friend or something, because you need to learn how to problem solve, do bills, all that sort of stuff. So I really highly encouraged her to do that. So she did. She moved out for 12 months. They got a 12-month lease. But I was so grateful because she moved in with her brother, because her brother obviously was living here too. And he's 2 years, just over 2 years older than her. So I thought, okay, phew, big strong man to protect her. Sexist, I don't care, but there's a big strong man to protect her. So she moved in with a girlfriend who was actually, funnily enough, also living here, because she was sort of in between homes at the time.
Sure.
And they all moved in together. But that 12 months prepared her for knowing who she was as an adult, away from mum and before husband, and I think is really quite essential. So I'm almost certain she's grateful for that experience. So I guess that's what you're saying, is like, how do you prepare them? And I think in the day of helicopter parenting, whatever you call it, helicopter, snowplow parent, you know, the parents that try to get rid of all of the problems in the way of their children, I'm going to put my hand up and go, yeah, a little bit did that, because I was a single mum and I was overcompensating, basically. Sure. So when they got older, I had to let go and encourage them to go out and practice learning stuff for themselves, like go and catch a bus somewhere, which I never let them do. I drove them everywhere, but all that sort of stuff, because we really don't, if we don't allow them to learn and problem solve and work out how to do this, you know, how do I set up a Centrelink, a Medicare card for myself and get off yours? You call them and they'll show you how to do that, even though every fibre of my being is wanting to give them every single
quickly I'll do it.
So you're going to find they'll know what to do, and this is how you're going to learn how to navigate your way around grown-up life, adulting.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I've often thought for anybody to do anything, they need the ability to do it. They need to have a support process around them, and they have to have a desire or a want to do that. And I think that the best that we can do is two of those, is to empower them with the ability and show them they actually do have the ability and they know how to do it, and support them and whenever they can. And it's great when it works well. It's not great when it doesn't work too well. And I think potentially there's a topic of another discussion, what part is empowerment and what part is helping and what part is enabling. You know?
And that's the thing. I think it's really important to, and particularly if you are a self-identified helicopter parent, snowplow parent, whatever, is to take that step back. And as hard as it is, you're actually doing your child a favour, because if you look back over your childhood, you navigated every single thing that you came across, right? So as if your kid's not going to. We're humans, we problem solve, we're resilient, we're already resilient. And so all our job is as a parent is to catch them when they fall, right? Set them up to succeed, but if they don't, catch them when they fall. So when it comes to how do I set up my Medicare card, all right, you go and just have a go at it. Like you just ring them, they will step you through it. If you have trouble, after you've tried, then come and ask me. But I guess it's leadership, isn't it? Like I wouldn't tell my staff specifically how to do their job. I'm like, here's the outcomes. You see how best to work your way there. if you get stuck, then come and ask me. Even though, again, every fibre of my being wants to tell them every single step of my way.
The way I'll do it.
Yeah, it is. We can't micromanage our staff, and we can't micromanage our children either. It is quite detrimental to them because they will get out there and not know how to buy a train ticket or set up their electricity and gas and stuff. It's like, you know what, make the phone call and work it out as you go along. And the rest of us, like, you just wing it. Like, that's what life is most of all. I was in the middle of a training session the other day and they were talking about winging. I said, yeah, I'm doing that right now. I'm laughing. It was well-being and psychology. So you can't really wing that. But yeah. So how then, so say for example, like my kids left me, it's a whole nother kettle of fish. Like you said, you're feeling a little bit like you're abandoning your child. How do you deal with that? Like what are you feeling like you need to do about your feelings and about maybe communicating that with him?
Yeah, I think I'll do what I've always done, just push my feelings down and just go on with my job. Which is really, really unhealthy.
Explode.
That's right, yeah. Take it out road rage or something. No, I think I'll just deal with it. We deal with it when you sort of see your children moving away anyway. It's hard and it hurts, and you deal with the emotions as they come up. I think that's the way that you're supposed to do it. That is the normal, natural way. It might not feel great, but you just have to remind yourself you're not dying. This is all normal.
Yes.
I think one of the other parts of it, of course, is how do you deal with failure to launch? Like how old is enough old sort of thing? What points do you say, you know what?
I'm going to say that's 25 because that's what I decided when my kids were really young. I don't know where I came up with that. So if you haven't moved out by the time you're 25, I'm going to move myself. I guess as a life coach and career person and with that psychology stuff, I'm pretty sure that's a scientific word for it. It's different for every kid. So I'm going to go and just throw that out there first, because some children, like, you know, with all your 4 children, some of them would have been ready to go to kinder. Some of them would have been clingy and hating every minute of it. They're going to be like that when they're in their 18, 19, 20. Some of them know what they want to be when they grow up, and they are already in the course, they're already doing the study, all that sort of stuff. And then there's the ones that aren't quite sure and need to just go out there and taste, test and navigate and find their way slowly and safely. So my professional opinion is I don't think there is an age, but certainly as a parent, if you've got a 19-year-old sitting around playing games and eating Uber Eats all day, I'd be saying you go out there and get a job doing absolutely anything while you work it out, but you are not sitting here wasting away and thinking you're just going to get everything handed to you, because that is not helpful to them at all. Because it becomes a pattern. It's 21 days to create a neural pathway and a pattern and a habit. You let your child sit there and play games for 21 days and not go get a job, guess what? You're in for a whole world of lazy child that then becomes a lazy adult. So it's sometimes you've got to be the mean parent, the bad cop, and push them out the door and go, I don't care if you're stacking shelves in the supermarket at night, you are going to do something that contributes to yourself and the community while you're working it out. Yeah,
no, very, very good idea. I think that that's vitally important. I think that getting out and getting a work of any kind is really helpful to your own self-esteem and mental health, because there's nothing like, inverted commas, earning your own income and spending that and doing what you want. And it can be difficult, can be hard, all these different things. But when you get the paycheck, it's a lot of people who know me know that I say it's called work for a reason. You get paid for the parts that you don't want to do. That's what you're getting paid for. If you're in an ideal situation where you're doing work that you really, really, really love and people are paying you to do that, that's the ideal, of course, but that's not the lived experience for the majority of the world. That's not what normally happens.
And the thing is that there's a lot of resources these days. Like when you and I were young, like there may have been, one of those Centrelink skills centers that kind of helped you get a job. But now there's like careers advisors and coaches. So if you're a parent that has got a child that has failure to launch, there are so many resources that don't even necessarily cost money. You don't have to go out and buy a life coach or career coach. There are plenty of resources to send them just to do some aptitude tests and some personality tests, and ask your children things like, what do you love doing? Like, what have you loved doing at school? What were the subjects that you really loved doing? What didn't feel like work? When you are just completely, time standing still, what have you been doing? And just when they tell you the topics or subjects they like, ask them what was it about that they liked, because there's so many different layers to those things. So just because they liked the electronics class doesn't mean they're going to be an electrician. So break it down a little bit to find out what's beneath those layers. What is it that you like? So, and it might be, I really enjoyed working with my hands, or I enjoyed the thought process. So there's all these, you can start to link different careers to that. And I had that experience with my son. And this is for any parents watching that have got young children, watch them. Watch what they naturally do as children, because they're in their most natural state up until about 8, when life kicks them up the backside and tells them they can't do something. So watch what they do, watch what they love, watch their little personalities and what's springing forward, and even take some notes, because when they get to year 10 and choosing subjects and stuff like that, you can remind them. And so I did that with my kids and reminded them of what they used to do, what their natural, my daughter, for example, I've shared this story before, if you've watched this before, sorry, but her first day of kinder, she walked in and she started to organise everybody. And she's like, sat down at her table and said, you play with that one and you do this one and you do this one. And the kinder teacher said, oh, she's bossy, isn't she? And I went, no, I'm seeing organisation skills and leadership skills. Please don't ever let her hear you say that. Her little brain's going to think that that's what she's doing is wrong, when that's her natural state. She ended up being the school captain, school leader, youth leader, and now she's like a Connect group leader, and she's a wellbeing youth worker, right, in a school. So these are all the little signs that you see from them, so that you can actually help remind them of that when life has kicked their butts through school. Let's face it, you lose a bit of your identity when you've taken a few hard knocks, right? So we need reminders. And for my son, on the other hand, as a child, was always pulling things apart and putting things together. So it was hands, it's working with his hands. So I sort of encouraged him into thinking about that sort of area. So one of them went to uni, one of them did an apprenticeship. Right. So it's about noticing those natural traits of your kids, so that you can revisit them later on. No,
that's great. I think that's really helpful. What about when things go wrong? What part do you think would be appropriate to help, and what part is just enabling? Well, maybe not enabling, but living beyond their means.
That is really tricky, and I guess it comes down to a little bit of just loving communication as well. As like when our kids hit 18, literally our job is done. And we need to let them discover and learn for themselves. We need to let them make mistakes, even though it hurts our heart so bad. As long as it's not, we're not going to let them go out there and, fall into a box of knives or something. We'll prevent that from happening. But when it doesn't go well, or if it is about telling your child, life is about learning. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. And if they can reframe the way they look at failure as an opportunity to grow and problem solve and resilience, it's like, okay, so you chose the wrong topic at uni. So again, using my kids as an example, my daughter said, I'm going to do a Bachelor of Psychology. And my mum brain that has watched her grow up is going, oh, no, you need to do youth work, and probably in a TAFE, like diploma situation to start off with. But I'm like, no, she needs to know. So I let her do it. It's like, well, you've got to sometimes, because I'm thinking, what's the worst thing that can happen if she goes and does it and hates it? Because there's a lot of more science and theory in that. And I thought, no, she's more of a, I want to go in there and help people straight away, not learn about the statistics of psychology, which that's what it is. So she finished a semester and she said, I don't think this is for me. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not a waste. You've met new people, you've learned how to catch a bus to uni, you've learned all these things in this psychology class will contribute towards where you're headed anyway. Nothing is ever wasted. So then she said, well, maybe I need to do a counselling a Bachelor of Counselling. And my mum brain's going, no, you need to do youth work. But I didn't say anything. I let her do a semester of counselling, knowing that it's still contributing to where she's headed.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've got to let them fail forward.
Yeah.
And nothing's ever wasted. Even if it's like she did engineering, started engineering, it's still not a waste. And they need to know it's still not a waste, because they still made new connections, built new relationships, learned how to do all the grown-up stuff, and even learning something that isn't what you're going to be is actually good for your brain. Like, it's good for your brain processing skills and all that sort of stuff. So it's going back to your original question. I've made the long way around there, but is just to let them know it's okay. Yeah. It's okay to not have it right now. Not every kid knows what they want to be when they grow up. It's okay to go out there and try something just to find out what not to do as well. But constantly encouraging them. I'm still not going to let you sit at home. Right? Yeah, I'm not going to let you sit on your bum at home. You're going to go out there, even if you're volunteering at a dog shelter. Yeah. Whatever that is that gets you out of bed every day and into the shower and into a clean pair of clothes every day, you will contribute to the world around you. Yeah. No, so we have to do the tough love, soft love sort of. Yeah. Yeah,
that's good. I think that's a good definition between enablement and helping. I think that's really helpful.
And as a parent, it's about being there to catch a child when they fall. Unconditional love. So when they make a mistake, like, no parent should ever go, told ya. Or, I mean, even though you want it. Yes. But just go, that's okay. You've learned how not to do something. Yeah. Failure, kids need to see failure as a positive and reframe failure as an opportunity to grow, opportunity to learn not what to do, opportunity to problem solve and work their way forward through trial and error. And remind them that, right, Richard Branson, and I always use this in my training, right, with leaders, Richard Branson, who came up with Virgin everything, like, he just looks like this massive success, right? Virgin Airlines and Virgin Money and Virgin. I'm like, have you heard of Virgin Cola? No. He thought it was a really good idea to take on Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Right. Right. But if he didn't have if he grew up thinking, I don't want to make a mistake, we wouldn't be flying Virgin. We wouldn't be doing all the other things. So it's actually, we actually need to. Making mistakes is us not being scared to step out and give something a go. Because if we don't, nothing ever happens. We never succeed in any way if we don't step out of that fear and go, hey, I might stuff this up, but that's okay. Yeah. That's good. Well, I think that's really helpful. So, well, as we were saying before, we have said in several other videos we've done that if you've got any topic you think you'd like to put to us, please put it in the comments below. We do regularly check and we will come back to you. I hope you've enjoyed this. We'd love to feedback even on what we've talked about. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Any of those type of things, we'd love to hear from you. Yeah, and so do let us know, but also please pass on this video as well, because it's a free way you can help the channel out. If you have found this really helpful, pass it on with friends, especially if you've got friends that are empty nesting. And I guess just final words of, we've talked a lot about the kids, but for the parents, empty nesting, you literally go through a grieving process, just similar to the one that you went through the first time you took your baby to kinder and had to separate with your child, and like, oh my God, I can't. If you remember that, it's the same first day of primary school, first day of high school, and it's the same when you empty nest. Allow yourself time to go through the grief and loss process. Allow the emotions to come. They're perfectly normal, perfectly natural, and it's kind of not good to bottle up your emotions, as you were saying, but allow them to come. But once the emotions have played their part, then think, what's new? So it's a grief, loss, and gain. What are we getting now? Oh my gosh, we now have more time. We don't have to drive them everywhere. We can, at the Tim Tam, packet of Tim Tams will now last forever.
The house is cleaner.
23 hours. I actually literally this morning was thinking, oh my gosh, I hardly do any washing anymore. It's like, because it's not, so start thinking about all the things that you've got to look forward to in your new season, but also your child's new season. You get to watch them grow and blossom and turn into an amazing young adult that you raised and did all that hard work for. So start looking forward to that new season as well.
Good advice. Thanks very much.
That's okay. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you for another episode of Beauty and the Priest. And thank you for watching. Bye for now.
Bye.